And the dugout is back and rearing and ready to go. Baseball season is fully underway. We're going to talk a little bit of OU baseball on the show today.
We're also going to talk about what happened last week with Mr. Ozzie Guillen, probably the most famous manager in the game for maybe not the best reasons.
Got that, and also got a little Beantown panic coming your way. That's all coming up on In the Dugout. Yeah, welcome to the show. Gonna have our producer, DJ Brad Scher, on the show. DJ, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing awesome like always. Another beautiful day here in Oklahoma. I should be out on the golf course right now.
Yeah, the weather has been
definitely nice day.
Has anyone else been having allergy problems like me?
Oh, always. I pretty much have allergies year round. So take some aloe vera. It's like a knockoff Claritin. It's dirt cheap. It works pretty well if you take it every day.
What are the side effects, though?
Zero side effects.
Really?
It's non-drowsy as well.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Bobby Rose, our in-house
allergy expert. Trust me. I am an allergy expert. Definitely.
All right, well, let's hop right into it. Talk a little OU baseball first. They are now on a 5-game winning streak after sweeping Arkansas. Where do you see them as far as seeds go in the tournament?
Bobby, go ahead.
I think that depends on how they finish out the season. They need to win 2 of 3 from Baylor, and here's why. Baylor is currently on a 21-game winning streak right now, I believe.
20.
No,
20.
they won.
Oh,
It was 21. They won last night.
Okay, that's right.
They're on a 21-game winning streak. They're undefeated in the Big 12. If Oklahoma can take 2 of 3 from them, as the Baylor's ranked, I believe, number 6 in the country right now, according to Baseball America. If Oklahoma finishes out that series winning 2 of 3, because let's face it, Baylor really hasn't been tested all that much yet. They still haven't played A&M, Texas, or OU in a series so far. So if Oklahoma can take 2 of 3 from Baylor and win that series, then I'll look at them maybe as a 2 seed in the tournament. And if they keep finishing out the series, they can't lose another series the rest of the way in the season.
I agree with you, and one thing we talked about earlier and in the show when we were talking about OU rebuilding this year, we talked about the teams that they needed to beat, and OU's doing a nice job taking 3 on the year from ORU. That ORU is a pretty decent team in the state.
We thought they could have been the best team in the state.
Right. And so a very competitive ball club gave OU definitely. They jumped out to a 1-0 lead yesterday, and then the Sooners showed some resilience, being able to come back and put some runs on the board and be able to win that game. This weekend they don't have much of a test playing Alabama State, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
And then. After winning, playing a solid series against Missouri last weekend, sweeping Missouri, there's not really many series that I look forward on this schedule, and I see that OU is going to have trouble with. So they've got Bedlam coming up, and so OSU is really down.
I believe I had it at 19-16 on the year. I mean, if you're Oklahoma, you probably have to win at least 2 out of 3 in that series, if not just sweep the series.
What I look at with OU right now is I see their RPI is not great. At one point a week ago, they were sitting at 109th in the nation in RPI, and that doesn't get you into the tournament, even in the slide.
Yeah.
They've moved up into the 90s now. Baseball America has them as being a bubble team, but right now, currently, they're sitting in the tournament. So
they have to keep winning.
They have to keep winning, and that's good for them. And then they have a schedule that will present them. Very
favorable.
A&M, Texas, Baylor,
Except for
Baylor, all of those
out of the way.
all
already.
out of the way. So they had a very tough part of the first half of the season. So, but I tell you, I'm going to be interested to watch the Bears and how they close out their year.
Right, absolutely.
Texas is a little down, so they should be able to pull some wins against Texas. But they should be able to scrape by at least with a win against OU. That A&M Baylor series
in Norman, or is that series in Waco?
I want to say that's in Waco. So
that'll be an interesting series to watch.
Absolutely.
We'll keep our eye on that for everyone. DJ, what do we have up next?
All right, next, you knew we were going to talk about Oz again. It was just a question.
It was inevitable.
Do you think the suspension was too harsh, not harsh enough? Let me know how you feel about that.
Ozzie being Ozzie, I'm going to say if this would have been the 1960s, the guy would have been blacklisted and never worked.
CIA probably would have come after him, too.
Yeah.
He would have disappeared.
No, Ozzie, you can't say things like that. I understand, and I knew what he meant. I knew the guy's a very sarcastic guy. We all know what Ozzie says, and
take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt, but nonetheless, in that community, with such a high Cuban population in Miami, the things that the Castro regime has done and displaced to families, and the tragedies that the borderline atrocious atrocities that he has committed against mankind, it's really sad. And so, Gian, you can't say stuff like that in a community that's really been affected and afflicted by the Castro regime. I understand that the younger generation, maybe they don't understand it as much, and they probably take it with a grain of salt and say, "Okay, I'm a second generation Cuban American, so it's kind of just funny," and I understand. But those first generations, the one that were actually displaced by the Castro regime. That's unacceptable, and I really think the punishment should have been harsher for Gian.
I definitely think that the suspension was warranted, but I think 5 games was just about right because he didn't actually go and do anything about it. He just made an offhanded comment in passing, said this in an interview, obviously. But 5 games is. It's obviously not very much compared to the 162-game schedule, but this is still early in the season for Miami, who's just trying to learn to play together with its new manager. So I felt the penalty was plenty severe enough. Maybe a better question, though, would be an over-under on how many games this season Ozzie Guillen gets suspended. Put the number at 20.
20 games. I don't know. It depends on what he does next.
Right.
I see him going under 20, especially because I think Guillen's going to be really, really careful with what he says now, because I do understand and I know that he did actually feel terrible for what he said.
Absolutely.
So when you see Ozzie being remorseful,
right? The problem is that he's still Ozzie Guillen, and he still apparently just doesn't have a filter or any couth whatsoever.
DJ, what do you think? Over under?
I think it was accurate, 5-game suspension. As far as him saying it couldn't have been a worse time with them opening a new stadium.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The protesters outside the stadium.
Yeah, the timing of it was just
horrible.
Yeah.
It was. Next, should there be a panic in Beantown? Trevor, we're going to start with you. What do you think?
You're the Boston expert.
Absolutely there should. When you have your ace, John Lester, when John Lester goes 2 1/3 inning against the Rangers, and I understand that the Rangers, they're going to do that to.
Well, they have a good offense, but 18 runs.
But when you're getting pulled, you down 7-2 after taking a 2-0 lead. When Pedroia gets you fired up like that, that's bad mojo. And I still look at it, and I still see. I understand that Lester is the ace on this rotation. I still see Beckett as being the leader of that rotation just because of where he's in. I think
the veteran leadership.
Yeah, it's the veteran leadership, and I tell you, there's some major concerns in that pitching rotation. Not only in the starting rotation, but in the bullpen.
Bullpen's been atrocious.
They still don't know where they sit as a closer. They haven't had many opportunities to get a closing. They're not scoring runs. There's a major concern, and I tell you what, if Bobby Valentine does not have this team above 500, not at 500, above 500 by the All-Star break, it's time for Bobby V to go. I understand that he wants to come in and he really wants to be the game changer with the Red Sox and really implement discipline into that clubhouse. But you know what? there's a major panic in Beantown right now.
Right. I was skeptical of the Bobby Valentine hire to begin with because, I mean, he never was a great manager in the Major League Baseball. He was always a solid manager, had his teams do well, never great. But
well, he got the Mets to the World Series, so
right. But I mean,
saying something. So,
but I mean, you also look at some of the things. Like I looked up the statistic earlier. You talked about how bad their relief pitching has been.
Right.
The ERA for their bullpen is sitting at the second worst in the major leagues at 6.23 earned run average. That's just horrible.
No,
and you can't expect to win games when your bullpen is giving up 6 runs a game.
Especially in that division. And you know what? I was excited over the weekend when the Red Sox took 3 from the Rays, and the Rays were...
And then they come back.
And then they come back and just get slapped by Texas.
Right,
and
swept.
So that there's absolutely no excuse for that huge series this weekend against New York, and New York is struggling as well, but they're at least putting runs on the board.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
So I guess if the Red Sox can score, it should be an interesting series, but we've got a really, really good opportunity to wind up losing like 4 of 6 or maybe like 6 of 8 over this next week and a half. That's unacceptable. That's going to put the Red Sox 5-6 games below 500.
Right, especially with all the talent on that roster and the pitching staff and throughout the lineup. You go look down the roster, there's just all-stars everywhere at every position. There's just absolutely no excuse for them to be 4-8 right now.
Right,
like they are.
Right, DJ. I want to ask you, what did you take from the Bobby Valentine, Kevin Youkilis comment?
I feel like it was the worst timing that possible for him to mention a player in a negative way, and with them going through what they're going through right now, struggling, pitching, struggling, everything struggling. Everybody's frustrated in Beantown, seems like. I think that this series with the Yankees coming up this weekend, it's gonna test their heart, see where their head's at, and if they're ready to be contenders in the NL East.
Right.
Or, excuse me, AL East.
And I personally didn't like the comment by Bobby Valentine either. I felt that you can't just go in there, and if you want to earn those players' respect being the new manager, you can't go in there and just call players out like that. You got to take a little bit of the responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely. No. Bobby, he did wind up saying, like, he was like, I didn't mean it like that. I was just saying that, that it seems like he's just, he's frustrated and he sees it. And, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I think Bobby really was calling him out, and I think he got caught doing it. I don't really know what he means. I mean, DJ, do you think that he was saying that he was frustrated, or do you really think he was saying that Youkilis' heart is in the game, which is I find absolutely hard to believe, because I see Youkilis, he shows it on his
He plays hard.
He plays hard.
Youkilis is a hard-nosed player. He does have a lot. He has a lot going on right now, isn't he? Planning a wedding or whatever.
He's planning a wedding.
Right.
Planning a wedding.
Yeah, and so I mean, I understand that, but the guy, he didn't bat well on the road last year. He hasn't bat well on the road in the last 2 years, and so but he's hitting well in Boston.
He is. I think all of this is premature. I really do. I mean, every team goes through a spell where they're not hitting the ball. They can't throw. They can't pitch. I think that's just one of those spells for the Boston Red Sox.
Well, didn't the Red Sox open up the season like 1-9 last year?
They were very poor to start the year out last year.
So it's really early. We'll see what happens. But I understand that there's more of a distress under Bobby Valentine, because at least under Francona, we knew that he
would get the players
back going.
So. Right.
So
you don't know. You
a lot more added pressure.
Just don't know what to expect with the new manager.
I imagine that,
and how to manage those, and especially with the Boston team, because there's a lot of egos on that team.
A lot of egos,
and you got to, as a manager, you have to learn how to manage those egos. And so far, Bobby Valentine has not done.
He's got an ego of his
really
own.
Does.
So
I mean, would fit in perfect with all those egos. His ego, I thought he'd be able to manage it. But
you got to be relaxed and easygoing. That's one reason I still miss Francona. So take it with a grain of salt.
All right, next up, we're going to talk a little NL East baseball. The Mets and the Nationals, they started off hot. What are the chances one of those two teams wins the NL East?
That's a tough one, because I think the Nationals can at least contend. I think the Mets are going to completely fall off the map, because I don't think the Mets have enough talent anymore. I just don't think they're good enough. I think their schedule to start the season off was pretty easy, to be honest with you. They had a pretty cakewalk schedule for those first couple series.
Hey, they played the Braves first series. You need to calm down a little bit.
Okay, well, outside of the Braves. But actually, I was going to make that point is that, honestly, I think the Braves are going to kind of start to turn it around. And the Braves will end up winning that division. But I think the Nationals maybe can contend, but I would put the percentages pretty low for either of those teams winning that division in the NL East.
I saw the Nationals have an opportunity. They're projected, some polls have them projected to win like 90-plus games this year, and that's a huge improvement.
That seems pretty high to me.
That's very high to me, and but I mean they're playing really well. Strasburg is dealing right now.
When he's healthy, he's always been good.
Right, and so if Strasburg stays healthy, they've got a good rotation. The Nationals are going to be really tough to beat. I still think that the Braves are going to turn it around. I don't see, honestly, the Phillies coming out of that division because they're too banged up. And I know that they're going to be healthy later on, but is it going to be too little too late? They've got a lot of holes in the infield, no offense. Their starting rotation is I mean,
still maybe the best
in baseball, but you got to put runs on the board. So the Nationals are going to be the most interesting team in the National League East. I don't see the Mets. I see them falling off.
Right.
I take them with a grain of salt. The Nationals are going to be fun to watch. Absolutely, though. I think they could clinch a wild card spot.
Yeah. Don't forget about Michael Morse. He's on the DL right now for the Nets. That's their 4-hole that they'll be getting back here shortly.
But also, we'll see if that kid that was hitting those 500-foot home runs in high school, if he gets a chance.
What's his name? Bryce Harper?
Bryce Harper. Yeah. See if he gets a chance to play this year as well. If they get him up in there, it's going to be a tough lineup to go up against.
I really do think Washington's headed in the right direction. They got the pitching. Gio Gonzalez, he's throwing the ball really well right now. And their lineup's pretty stacked. I mean, they got some young talent out there. Bryce Harper, as you mentioned. Ryan Zimmerman, they just signed him to a long-term deal. So everything's looking good in Washington right now.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to let you guys know our Facebook and Twitter question was, weigh in, folks. What's wrong with Boston right now? The best answers aired. Michael Stewart says that everything is wrong. Jeff Ruffus says...
Perhaps the best comment of the day, they're in Boston.
Stephen Jones commented with a funny music reference and said they really went downhill after More Than a Feeling. And Darren Rogers comes in and says their problem is the manager. Players have always hated him everywhere, and he has never been, and the players definitely hate him now. So definitely some resentment
right,
towards Bobby
absolutely.
Valentine. Coming back up, we're going to go ahead and come in with Greg Spencer on the phone.
Well, I think we actually have... Do we have any more topic questions?
We do have more topics, but we got to go ahead and
get we got to get Spence in.
We'll be right back on In the Dugout.
It's no coincidence the Toyota Tundra has received the most dependable large pickup award from J.D. Power and Associates. Not once, not twice, but 6 years in a row. Now that's a statement no other truck can make. The full-size Tundra from Toyota.
I'm Roy Williams.
I'm Charles Howell.
I'm Mark Clayton.
I'm Tommy Harris.
Curtis Lofton.
Gerald McCoy.
I'm Chris Chamberlain.
What's your fate?
What's your fate?
In life, you have choices, decisions. Then after your decisions, you have consequences.
You have to step up and choose to be different. What do you want to do? What do you want to be?
What is your fate?
What's your fate?
What's your fate?
What's your fate?
What's your fate?
Whether you're a weekend warrior or a high school athlete, injuries happen. The physicians at Oklahoma Sports and Orthopedic Institute are ready to help you get back to your game. This team of highly trained orthopedic surgeons and sports medicine physicians specialize in the prevention and treatment of all sports-related injuries, as well as comprehensive spine care, joint replacement, and fracture care. If you find yourself on the sidelines, call 360-6764 or log on to osoi.com. OSOI. Get back to your game.
Welcome back to In the Dugout. We now bring in our good friend Greg Spencer. Greg, how you doing today?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, more than
No
happy to.
problem.
Absolutely. So, Greg, you're a Dodgers guy. You got to be feeling happy
Pretty
right
ecstatic. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a good start, except for coming back to a little bit of reality the last couple nights, losing one-run ball games to Milwaukee in the 9th and 10th inning. Last night had a little bit of a controversial call at the plate. But, Mr. Everything, Matt Kemp, actually should have done a better job. I don't know if you guys saw the highlights, but he didn't really take a good angle on the fly ball by Ryan Braun, and they just missed, I believe it was Nigel Morgan in home plate.
T-plush.
It's always a not good way to end games. You barely miss a call at the home plate that would win you the game. But the Dodgers are playing pretty well right now. Andre Ethier and Matt Kemp are both having great seasons so far. Do you think Matt Kemp can duplicate what he did last year?
Yeah, Bobby, really, if you look at his career trajectory up until the 2010 season, what he did last season and this season are making sense. He took a step back in 2010. I don't know if he maybe got a big head with everybody kind of knows, it's well documented now. He dated Rihanna for a while, maybe living the Hollywood life a little too much. But I really think he matured and learned from that season. The Dodgers made the NLCS in 08 and 09, led by Kemp and Ethier and all these guys now that are starting to kind of come into their prime. But then when they came into last season, I think, they took a step back as a team because they weren't able to spend any money. And like I said, everybody knows about the Frank McCourt stuff going on and having to sell the team. And I think just a dark cloud kind of hung over the team last year. And it took them really, almost at least half the season before they kind of woke up and started playing some baseball. Obviously, Kemp led the way. But the fact that the team finished 6 games over 500 last year really was a testament to not only Kemp and Kershaw, but Don Mattingly in his first year, really keeping the team together through a lot of troubles and finding a way to finish over 500. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you go back to the All-Star break last year up until this time, the Dodgers have the best record in the National League.
Now, a lot of people are already loving Matt Kemp. I have Matt Kemp on my fantasy squad, and I'm in great shape.
Yeah, can't complain there.
Oh no. But people are already throwing out the Matt Kemp going 50 for 50 this year, or going 50-50 on
right.
Well, he fell just short of it 40-40 last year. I believe he stole. I can't remember if he stole 39 or hit 39 homers. But he was one short of doing it. Had a fantastic season, flirted with a triple crown. 50-50 might be a bit beyond his reach. So far, I think he maybe stole one base so far. He hasn't been in a lot of situations where he can be in. He just seems to kind of be driving in runs and hitting home runs and doubles. And so as far as going 50 stolen bases, I think that was something he just kind of threw out there as a goal, which you like guys setting goals. I don't know if he really truly believed he would do that. If I had to go out on a limb right now and kind of project what he may do this season, I do think he will hit over 300 again. I think he's got a chance to drive in, between 115 and 125 RBIs, and then most likely he can hit, 40-plus home runs if he continues and stays healthy, which is something when you have to consider, who may be the best player in the major leagues. Matt Kemp's a guy. He has the current longest streak in Major League Baseball for consecutive games played. And I really don't know that he's missed more than about a game or two each of his 5 or 6 seasons he's been in the major leagues.
Right, absolutely. Obviously, the Dodgers playing well in the NL West right now, winning that division. But how do you see the rest of the NL shaking out for the rest of the season here, Greg?
I really think the National League is wide open this year. We came into last year, everybody kind of prematurely handed the World Series title to the Phillies because of that great pitching staff. And, they've got that staff back. But with Chase Utley being on the downside of his career with injury issues and Ryan Howard being out at least half the year, I don't know what to expect from the Phillies. I think they have some holes in their lineups that they haven't had in the past. They do still have that dominant pitching. I mean, how many guys like Cliff Lee last night goes 10 innings and shutout and takes a loss, 1-0 in that pitcher school with Matt Payne. I still think the Phillies obviously will hang around. I don't think you can count out the Braves, which, by the way, guys, have you seen the Braves in the uniforms?
Awesome. Are they not
Yeah,
awesome?
yeah, they're pretty cool. Absolutely.
I mean, they're not a drastic change, but I really like it. It's a subtle change, a little off topic there, but I kind of noticed those in the last couple days. But, the Marlins, I don't like the situation with Ozzie Guillen going down right now, so I'd be surprised if they really have a chance. But, we're talking about the Dodgers, and up until last night had the best record in the NL. Well, guys, the team that has the best record right now is the Washington Nationals. Nationals are now 10-3, and it might be a year early projection-wise of how good this team can be, but they have made some outstanding moves over the last couple of years, and it's taken them a while to get to this point, but I really, truly believe that the Nationals are going to be a team that can compete for the next decade.
Now, Greg, a lot of people thought that with last season and the way that Mattingly ran his clubhouse, some people think that this is really going to be a breakout year as a manager for Don Mattingly. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you think Mattingly is faring as the current skipper of the Dodgers?
Well, he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's not one of those guys that trained in the minor leagues. He waited in the wings with Joe Torre and the Yankees, came over with Joe when he came to the Dodgers, and was really kind of thrown into the fire in a bad situation last year. And I think he made the most of it. Like I said, to finish 6 games over 500 with as bad a start as they got off to was in the fact that they put no money into that team last year. It was really, really amazing, to be honest. And like I said, they've got the good record since the All-Star break of last year. I like Don Mattingly. I think he's a level-headed guy. He relates to players. They respect him because he's a former All-Star. Really a guy that would be in the Hall of Fame if not for his back injury that kind of cut short his career. He does a fantastic job. He handles the players well. You can tell that they respect him. Sometimes he does show his lack of experience at that lower levels. He'll occasionally make a move that'll leave your head scratching. But really, you've seen those reduced not only this year, but as last year went on. And I really think that he's in a good situation now with the ownership change coming into effect here in the next couple of weeks, with Stan Kasten and Magic Johnson and company being in charge of the team. I think he's only going to have better chances to succeed because of the situations that he's going to be put in the front office and being able to acquire better players in the offseason and trade deadline.
You just mentioned Stan Kasten and the Magic Johnson group that just bought the Dodgers. You must obviously be ecstatic about the new ownership group. Just tell us a little bit of what you think the new ownership group is going to bring to the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Well, it brings things on basically it's kind of a three-level attack when you think about it. You've got Magic Johnson that's kind of there for PR that I think can get the fans back interested because the Dodgers are a team that forever always, 3 million people in attendance, 40 to 50,000 every game. They get a little bit of a bad rap because fans, arrive late and leave early a lot of times to beat traffic. But when a game counts, Dodger fans have always been there. Last year, they boycotted. There were times when there were only 15,000 people in the stands, and it was amazing. I had never seen anything like it. Well, Magic gets a little bit of that instant credibility back. I think fans they want to be a part of the Dodgers. As good as the Angels are, as much money as they've thrown around, they're not a Los Angeles team. I don't think they have a lot of fans. I mean, I actually have a shirt that says Los Angeles Dodgers of Los Angeles. Kind of a play on the Angels, taking credit for. But then, I think Magic, he gets people excited. You've seen it. He's already put them on ESPN more than they were all of last season. I think that people have a reason to be excited about the possibility of the Dodgers again. And then you talk about Stan Kasten. A lot of people don't necessarily know the name. Maybe have heard of him, don't know what he's done. Stan Kasten's been in the business of professional sports since the early 80s. He basically deserves a ton of credit for making the Braves what they have become. John Sherholtz gets most of the credit because he was the general manager. He hired John Sherholtz. He helped develop the farm system, and he made all those moves. The thing that was so amazing about what the Braves, the success they had, those 14 straight division titles, is they always spent wisely. They built from within. They always had a good farm system. And, I mean, can you think of any bad contracts that the Braves handed out over those years? I can't.
Absolutely.
No, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's his philosophy. You know, he handles. He's really big on creating a good farm system and spending wisely and going after those free agents that you can get without having to break the bank. And then you talk about, lastly, is the Guggenheim Company. And there's been a lot of talk about the $2 billion price tag. And, yeah, it's a lot. And basically it was a situation where they didn't want to go to auction, and Magic went up and the Guggenheim partners and said, hey, here's the money, $2 billion, let's do it. Well, if somebody spends that kind of money, they're going to have more money where that came from. So I don't think, a lot's been said about maybe they overpaid for him, but I don't think that's an issue. They're going to be able to make that money back here in the next year because of the TV deal that they're going to be able to get for the network.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's a huge issue. I really think they have the right people in place, and obviously I'm a little bit of a homer, but I try to look at it from a objective standpoint. And I really think that with Matt Kemp locked up for 7 years and Kershaw probably, I think one of their first priorities was to get him locked up. They have something to build around, so that's important.
definitely going to be interesting to see how they draw up with possibly that Fox Sports contract coming up in the future. But Greg, we're going to go ahead and have to let you go this afternoon. But thank you very, very much for coming on to the show today. Greg Spencer, our Dodgers insider.
We'll look forward to having you on the show again, Greg.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right, have a good one, Greg.
All right.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and come back, wrap the show up, and end with a little bit of a Royals discussion.
Absolutely. We both get to talk a little bit of our homers today, so we'll just call it Homer Day today.
And welcome back to ITD. Let's go ahead and wrap things up, and let's get it going with our Royals discussion.
All right, Bobby. What seems to be the problem with the Royals so far this season?
Well, there's a few problems. The first is that their offense has been inconsistent. For the most part, the offense has been a solid, and scoring 3-4 runs a game with an occasion outburst of 7 or 8. The main problem isn't even the starting rotation. Like we talked about this earlier, the starting rotation really kind of overachieves most times. They're really not that good when you look at a talent standpoint, but they always pitch well. They always keep the Royals into games. They always pitch a good 5, 6, sometimes 7 innings. But the biggest problem is the middle relief. Once you get that starter out of the game, you better beware of the floodgates because they're about to open. I mean, you get swept by the Indians, the Tigers. You win 3 out of your first 5 games, take 2 of 3 from the Angels, and then you lose 2 of 3 to the Athletics. You get swept by the Indians. It's like, and then you get swept by the Tigers. They open a series, I think, today with the Blue Jays. That'll be a big series. They need to win that series to get back on track. Right now, they're sitting at 3-9 and last in the division. To be honest, they're really underachieving, and they're really missing Joaquin Soria, and that middle relief has been really poor. It's pretty much always been their weakness.
I mean, I talked about this earlier. I think that there's just definitely going to be some inconsistencies with the Royals, and I think they're going to be. They're so young, and young teams play baseball as a game of streaks. And so once they find their groove, they'll climb back up there, and then they'll have those youthful mistakes, which is expected with that young squad. And so right now you kind of scratch your head and say, what's going on with that organization? A lot of people thought that this was going to be the year that the Royals really got back into it, but keep in mind, folks, it's really early. The Royals, they've got good prospects. Their farm system is the best
in baseball.
Is the best in baseball. I'd actually go back and say Arizona's got the best farm system in baseball, but I'd say I'd say that the Royals, it's the best I've seen in years. The way that they've started to rebuild and put money back into that franchise from the ground up. So they're close. They're really, really close, but you gotta look at what this coaching staff is doing right now, and they're just getting that team geared to finally get on a winning streak and just get it going. So you take it with a grain of salt. The Royals will be there eventually.
Okay, well, DJ, your final thoughts on the show today?
Another good show for us today. Had some insightful conversations. Tune in next week. We will be discussing some more baseball. Bedlam. When is Bedlam? Is that next week?
It might be the weekend after.
The weekend after?
We're going to have to definitely check on that because that's a huge series. We're going to definitely have to talk about how OU fared over the weekend. I want to let's talk a little bit OSU baseball next week and see where they're going because that'll set us up for Bedlam, more pro baseball, and then I tell you what, I've heard Ty Hensley at Edmond Santa Fe is putting up monster numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard great things about his season.
We're going to definitely have to get back on that track and talk a little more high school baseball next week. But anyway, folks,
wait. We're talking baseball on this show?
We're talking baseball.
Wait, since when do we talk baseball?
Excuse Bobby's dry humor.
Since when do we talk baseball on this show?
It's Bobby here. Anyway, check us out. Hashtag ITD. Follow the conversation on Twitter and get involved with the show. Follow me at Trevor R. Z Preps.
And at Bobby Rose Z Preps. No spaces.
We'll see you guys next week.